Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we are stepping away from isolated cabins and haunted hotels to talk about what is widely considered the most claustrophobic and terrifying environment in the United Kingdom. If you search through urban exploration forums or deep web mystery threads, you will always find stories about the abandoned tunnels of the London Underground. That's what's written all over the internet anyway. Whenever I'm scrolling through these threads late at night, the stories that chill me to the bone the most are always about the deep-level tube stations after the trains stop running. As a female creator who loves investigating the paranormal and the unexplained, I realized I've actually never covered subterranean transit horror on my channel before, so today I want to start with a truly terrifying case. This story takes place in one of London's oldest, deepest subway stations. If you don't know what an empty London tube station looks like at 3 a.m., I'll put a picture on the screen. It's essentially a massive, curving labyrinth of white-tiled walls, flickering fluorescent lights, and endless stationary escalators descending deep into the earth. It's incredibly suffocating. There is no natural light, no cell service, and once the heavy iron gates are locked at night, you are completely trapped underground. Today's story takes place right in the heart of that damp, echoing isolation. Our story revolves around a young man named Oliver, and it will reveal exactly why the nighttime track workers have rules they never, ever break. But before we dive into the chilling details, if you enjoy horror, mysteries, and historical urban legends, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. The story begins with Oliver. He was a university student living in central London, and because the city is notoriously expensive, he was completely broke. Desperate for a job that paid well and wouldn't interfere with his daytime classes, he applied for a night shift cleaning position for the Underground. He was assigned to one of the oldest stations on the Bakerloo line, a deep-level station with a history dating back over a century. When Oliver arrived for his first shift at midnight, the last train had already departed. The sheer, crushing silence of the station was unsettling. A transit hub packed with thousands of commuters during the day is loud and chaotic. But out here, hundreds of feet below the street, it was dead quiet. His supervisor, an older, gruff man named Mr. Bates, handed him a mop, a bucket, and a heavy flashlight. "Here's your section, lad," Mr. Bates said, his voice echoing down the empty tunnel. "Clean the platform, empty the bins, and keep your head down. But listen to me carefully. At exactly 2:45 a.m., you might hear a train coming down the southbound tunnel. There are no trains at that hour. Whatever you do, do not look over the edge of the platform. And if you see anyone standing on the tracks, pretend you didn't." With that, Mr. Bates got into the service elevator and left Oliver completely alone on the platform. Oliver settled into his work, but the environment was gnawing at him. You could see the unease on his face. He wasn't used to this level of total, buried isolation. The air was stale and smelled of old iron and ozone. As he mopped the tiles, the atmosphere began to shift violently. The temperature plummeted, and a foul, metallic smell filled the air, like burnt copper and ash. Later that night, he checked his watch. It was exactly 2:45 a.m. Oliver was standing near the edge of the platform, emptying a trash bin. The silence was absolute. He heard a sound. It was the unmistakable sound of a heavy train approaching. Oliver froze, dropping the trash bag. He strained his ears. Over the rumbling, he heard the screech of metal on metal, but there were no headlights piercing the darkness. The sound grew deafeningly loud, rushing right past him, whipping his hair and clothes around as if a massive, invisible train was tearing through the station. And then, just as quickly as it came, the sound vanished. Oliver whispered to himself, "What on earth was that? It's impossible." He slowly walked toward the yellow line at the edge of the platform. He remembered Mr. Bates's warning not to look over the edge, but human curiosity is a dangerous thing. A cold sweat broke out on Oliver's forehead as he leaned over and shined his heavy flashlight down onto the tracks. Standing right in the middle of the rails, illuminated by the harsh beam of the flashlight, was a figure. It was a woman. She was wearing a tattered, ash-covered dress from the 1940s. Her back was turned to him, and her head was bowed. Panic seized Oliver. His instincts screamed at him to run to the service elevator, but his legs felt like lead. Slowly, the woman's head twitched. "Help me," a voice echoed. It didn't come from her mouth. It sounded like it was coming from the damp walls of the tunnel itself. "The sirens! The bombs are falling! Let us in!" Oliver stepped back, his heart hammering against his ribs. "No," he whispered. "This isn't real." Suddenly, the woman snapped her head around to look at him. Her face was a horrifying nightmare. Half of it was completely charred and melted away, exposing bone and blackened teeth. Her eyes were wide, milky, and filled with an ancient, furious terror. As Oliver stared in absolute horror, the entity let out an ear-piercing, unearthly shriek that shattered the glass of the platform's advertising boards. She didn't climb up the platform. Her limbs simply twisted, and she scrambled up the concrete wall like a massive broken spider, pulling herself onto the tiled floor right in front of him. Oliver let out a choked gasp, dropped his flashlight, and bolted. He ran toward the spiral emergency staircase, his boots slipping on the freshly mopped tiles. Behind him, the dead silence of the station was replaced by the terrifying sound of wet, heavy footsteps slapping rapidly against the floor, chasing him. Oliver threw himself into the narrow spiral staircase, taking the steps 3 at a time. The lights in the stairwell began to violently pop and shatter, plunging him into darkness section by section. He could hear her guttural, rattling breathing right behind him, her burnt hands scraping against the metal railings. For hundreds of steps, Oliver climbed, his lungs burning, his mind pushed to the absolute breaking point. He squeezed his eyes shut, praying the heavy iron gate at the surface wasn't locked. He burst through the top doors and collapsed onto the floor of the main ticket hall, gasping for air. The pursuing footsteps stopped instantly at the threshold of the staircase. From the pitch-black depths below, he heard one final distorted whisper echo up the shaft. "We are still burning." The next morning, Mr. Bates found Oliver huddled in the ticket booth, violently shaking, refusing to speak or look at the stairs. His hair had turned prematurely gray at the temples, and his uniform was torn. It was tragically obvious to the older man that Oliver had looked over the edge. As Mr. Bates escorted the traumatized student out of the station, he sighed and explained the grim history of the tunnels. "During the Blitz in World War II," Mr. Bates said softly, "thousands of Londoners used these deep tube stations as bomb shelters. But one night in 1940, a massive bomb scored a direct hit on the street above this very station. The tunnel collapsed. Hundreds of people were trapped down there in the dark, burning, screaming for help that never came. Their spirits never left the tracks. If you work down here, you know the rule. You never look at the tracks at 2:45 a.m. That boy didn't follow the rule, and she almost dragged him down into the ash with them. And that brings me to the end of today's video. It's hard to say exactly what haunts the London Underground. In British wartime folklore, there are countless legends of phantom sirens and the wandering spirits of Blitz victims still seeking shelter in the dark. I know a lot of urban legends are just ghost stories meant to scare new employees, but the sheer number of night shift track workers who refuse to clean certain platforms, it makes you wonder. The London Tube isn't the only underground transit system hiding terrifying secrets. There's actually a very similar, deeply unsettling story about an abandoned subway tunnel in New York City. I'll link that video up in the cards right here, so be sure to check it out next. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. It truly helps the channel out so much. And guys, please subscribe. As a female creator in the horror and mystery space, I love it so much when every single new member joins our little dark family here. Stay safe out there. Never look over the edge of an empty platform, and I will see you in the next one.